I thought the worst sound in the world was gunfire in Kandahar. I was wrong. The worst sound is your 2-year-old daughter crying from inside a car trunk while your wife is inside the house with another man. Before we dive deeper, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more intense betrayal and revenge stories. And let us know where you are listening in the comments. My name is Jake Morrison, and I spent 8 years as Delta Force before I traded my rifle for a toolbox and started my own construction business. I thought the hardest battles were behind me. I thought coming home to my wife Emma and our daughter Lily meant I was finally safe. I was supposed to be in Dallas for 3 days, installing custom cabinets for a high-end client. But the job finished early, and I decided to surprise my family. I pulled into our driveway at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, already imagining Lily's face when she saw Daddy walk through the door. That's when I heard it. A muffled whimpering coming from Emma's Honda Civic. The car was parked crooked in the driveway, like someone had been in a hurry. The engine was still warm. My military training kicked in before my heart could process what was happening. I moved quietly around the vehicle, listening. The sound was coming from the trunk. Mama, Mama. It was Lily's voice, weak and scared. I had the trunk open in seconds. My daughter was curled up in the dark space, her little pink dress soaked with sweat, her face red from crying. She looked up at me with those big blue eyes, and I saw something that made my blood run cold. Fear. Not just confusion or discomfort. Pure, primal fear. Daddy? She whispered, reaching up with trembling arms. I lifted her out, my hands shaking as I checked her over. She seemed physically okay, just dehydrated and terrified. But how long had she been in there? In this heat, even 15 minutes could have been. I couldn't finish the thought. It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's here now, I whispered, holding her against my chest. She clung to me like I was the only safe thing in the world. That's when I heard Emma's laughter coming from inside our house. Not just any laughter, the kind of intimate, breathless laughter she used to save for me, followed by a man's voice I didn't recognize. Come on, babe. She'll be fine for another hour. Kids sleep all the time. Another hour. My daughter had been locked in a trunk, and they were planning to leave her there for another hour while Emma and some stranger did whatever they were doing in my house, in my bed, while my child suffocated in the dark. I carried Lily to my truck, buckled her into her car seat, and gave her the emergency juice box I always kept in my glove compartment. She drank it like she hadn't had water in days. Daddy, she said quietly, dark. Scary dark. I know, sweetheart. It's all going to be okay now. But as I looked back at my house, seeing shadows moving past the bedroom window, I realized nothing was ever going to be okay again. Because the woman I'd trusted with my heart, my home, and my daughter's life had just shown me exactly what that trust was worth. And she had no idea that the man she was betraying had spent years learning how to neutralize threats that endangered the innocent. I pulled out my phone and started recording. Because in Delta Force, we learned that sometimes the most important mission isn't the one you signed up for. Sometimes it's the one that finds you when you're just trying to protect what matters most. The real war was just beginning. I didn't storm into that house like every fiber of my being was screaming at me to do. 8 years of Delta Force training had taught me something civilians never understand. The first move you make in enemy territory determines whether you complete the mission or become another casualty. And right now, my house had become enemy territory. Instead, I drove Lily to my sister Rachel's place 20 minutes away. Rachel took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. She just opened her arms for Lily and nodded when I said I'd be back later. Uncle Jake has some work to do, I told Lily, kissing her forehead. She was already perking up, asking Rachel about her cats. I drove back home and parked 3 blocks away. From my truck, I had a clear view of our house through my binoculars. Emma's Honda was still there, along with a black Dodge Charger I'd never seen before. At 4:15 p.m., I watched a man walk out of my front door. Tall, lean build, wearing jeans and a tight t-shirt that screamed he spent more time at the gym than at work. He had that cocky swagger of a man who thought he was untouchable. He kissed Emma goodbye on my front porch. Not a quick peck. A long, possessive kiss while his hands roamed places that belonged to me 6 months ago when I still believed my wife loved me. Emma was wearing the red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. She was glowing in a way I hadn't seen in months. Maybe years. The man climbed into the Charger, and I memorized his license plate. Texas tags. HNK 4721. In Delta Force, we called it target acquisition. In real life, it was just a husband watching his world crumble in real time. Emma went back inside, and I waited. Patience is a soldier's greatest weapon, and I had 8 years of it stored up. At 5:30 p.m., Emma came rushing out of the house, looking around frantically. She was checking the car, opening the trunk, calling out for Lily. The panic on her face would have been heartbreaking if I hadn't just pulled my daughter out of that same trunk 2 hours earlier. She was on her phone now, pacing the driveway. "Derek, she's gone. Lily's not in the car." Her voice carried across the quiet neighborhood. Derek. Now the enemy had a name. I could hear her clearly from my position. "No, I swear I put her in there before you came over. She was sleeping. I thought she'd be fine for just what, Emma? Just while you screwed another man in our bed. I have to call the police. Oh God, what if someone took her? What if she... Derek, what if she got out and wandered off?" The fear in her voice was real, which somehow made it worse. She actually cared about Lily's safety, just not enough to keep her out of a death trap while she satisfied her own selfish needs. My phone buzzed. Emma calling. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. "Jake, please call me back. Something's happened with Lily. I need you to come home. Please." 3 more calls. 3 more voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. I sat there watching my wife fall apart on our front lawn, and I felt something cold settle into my chest. Not rage. That was too hot, too uncontrolled. This was something else. Something tactical. At 6:45 p.m., I called her back. "Emma." "Jake." "Oh, thank God. Where are you?" "Is Lily with you?" "She's safe." A pause. "What do you mean she's safe? Where is she?" "She's with Rachel. I found her in the trunk of your car, Emma." "In the trunk." Silence. Long enough for me to count her heartbeats if I'd been close enough. I don't understand." "Sure you do. I came home early and found our daughter locked in your car trunk while you were busy with Derek." Another pause. Then, "Jake, I can explain." "I'm sure you can. But right now, I need you to think very carefully about your next move. Because I'm not the same man who left for Dallas 3 days ago. That man trusted you with the most important thing in his world. This man knows exactly what that trust is worth. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. There's a difference. Stay away from Lily until I decide what happens next." I hung up and watched through my binoculars as Emma collapsed onto our front steps, her phone falling from her hand. In Delta Force, we had a saying, "Know your enemy before they know they're your enemy." Emma had no idea the war had already started. That night, I sat in my home office, the one room Emma never entered because she said my military stuff made her uncomfortable. The irony wasn't lost on me now. Those same skills she'd dismissed were about to save our daughter's life. Derek Martinez, 34 years old, Phoenix, Arizona. It took me exactly 47 minutes to pull his entire digital footprint. When you've spent years tracking terrorists across 3 continents, finding information on some small-time predator is child's play. What I discovered made my blood run cold. Derek had a pattern. A very specific, very calculated pattern. Court records from Arizona showed he'd been charged with child endangerment 18 months ago. The case was dropped when his girlfriend at the time, a military wife named Christina Valdez, suddenly refused to testify. Her husband had been deployed to Afghanistan. Sound familiar? Then there was Jennifer Walsh in Colorado Springs. Another military wife. Another husband overseas. Police reports showed multiple domestic disturbance calls to her address, while Derek was living there. Then nothing. She'd moved out of state with her 2 kids and disappeared from social media entirely. Maria Santos in El Paso. Same story. Military husband deployed, Derek moves in. Things go bad. Family vanishes. But it was the fourth name that made me reach for my bourbon, Ashley Morrison. No relation, just the cruel coincidence of sharing my last name. Fort Hood, Texas. Her husband died in a training accident while Derek was dating her. She had a 3-year-old son. The boy ended up in the hospital with what Derek claimed was a fall down the stairs. Ashley backed up his story. 2 weeks later, she was found dead in her apartment. Apparent suicide, according to the police report. Her son went to live with relatives who immediately moved to another state. Derek wasn't just a cheater. He was a predator who specifically targeted military families, exploiting the vulnerability of wives struggling with deployment loneliness. And when things got complicated, people got hurt, sometimes permanently. I printed everything and organized it into a file that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Then I made copies and stored them in 3 different locations. My phone rang. Emma again. Jake, please. We need to talk. Do we? Because I've been doing some research on your boyfriend, and I'm not sure you know who you've brought into our daughter's life. What do you mean? Did Derek tell you about Christina? Or Jennifer? How about Ashley Morrison, the one who died? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. You're lying. I'm a lot of things right now, Emma, but a liar isn't one of them. Derek has left a trail of broken military families across 4 states. Children have been hurt. 1 woman is dead. That can't be true. It's all public record, which you'd know if you'd spent 5 minutes researching the man you let near our daughter instead of just falling for his gym rat routine. I heard her crying now, soft hiccups that once would have melted my heart. Jake, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know any of that. But you knew you were putting Lily in a car trunk. You knew you were leaving our 2-year-old daughter locked in a metal box in 90-degree heat while you screwed another man. You knew that, didn't you, Emma? She was asleep. I thought she'd stay asleep. I thought. You thought wrong. And if I hadn't come home early, you'd be planning a funeral right now instead of trying to explain why you nearly killed our child for a quick thrill. Don't say that. It's the truth. Lily was dehydrated and terrified when I found her. Another hour, and we'd be talking to homicide detectives instead of divorce lawyers. The line went quiet except for Emma's ragged breathing. Divorce lawyers? Did you think I'd just forget this happened? Pretend I never saw my daughter's face when I pulled her out of that trunk? Pretend I don't know what kind of monster you've invited into our lives. Jake, please. I made a mistake. A horrible mistake, but it was just what? Just an affair? Just child endangerment? Just bringing a predator with a history of violence around our daughter? Which part should I just overlook, Emma? I love you. Those 3 words hit me like shrapnel. Because part of me, the part that remembered our wedding day, remembered holding Lily in the hospital when she was born, remembered believing we were building something permanent. That part wanted to believe her. But the other part, the part trained to read situations and eliminate threats, knew better. If you loved me, Lily would never have been in that trunk. What happens now? I looked at the files spread across my desk. Evidence of Derek's crimes. Photos of his other victims. Police reports that painted a clear picture of a man who destroyed families for sport. Now you stay away from Derek. Permanently. And you pray that when this is over, I still believe you deserve to be part of Lily's life. And if I don't, stay away from him, I mean. The question revealed everything I needed to know about where Emma's priorities really lay. Then you'll find out why they call us Delta Force instead of Delta Suggestion. I hung up and stared at Ashley Morrison's police photo. 26 years old. Beautiful smile. Dead because she trusted the wrong man. That wasn't going to be Emma's story. And it sure as hell wasn't going to be Lily's. 3 days later, I kissed Lily goodbye at Rachel's house and loaded my truck with enough gear to convince anyone watching that Jake Morrison was heading out on another long construction job. Daddy work? Lily asked, hugging my neck. Yeah, baby girl. Daddy's got some important work to do. What Emma didn't know was that my job site was actually a surveillance position I'd established in the abandoned warehouse 2 blocks from our house. Perfect sight lines, multiple exit routes, and enough cover to remain invisible for weeks if necessary. I called Emma from the road. I'm heading to San Antonio for 2 weeks. Big commercial project. Don't try to contact me unless it's a real emergency. Jake, wait. Can we please talk before you leave? About us, about what happened. There's nothing to talk about. Just keep Lily safe while I'm gone. The bait was set. Within 6 hours of my supposed departure, Derek's black Charger was back in my driveway. Through my scope, I watched him walk into my house like he owned it. He had a duffel bag with him this time. Moving in already. For the next 4 days, I documented everything. Derek answering my front door in his underwear. Emma cooking breakfast in my kitchen while he sat at my table reading my newspaper. Him drinking beer from my refrigerator while watching my TV. But it was the small things that told the real story. On day 2, I watched Derek grab Emma's wrist when she tried to walk away from an argument. She pulled free, but the fear in her body language was unmistakable. Day 3, he shoved her against the kitchen counter hard enough that she stumbled. Emma rubbed her hip and kept cooking dinner like nothing happened. By day 4, Derek was answering Emma's phone calls for her, making decisions about what she could and couldn't do. Classic control patterns I'd seen in the files from his other victims. Emma was starting to understand what she'd gotten herself into, but she was already trapped. The breaking point came on day 5. I was monitoring their conversations through the audio equipment I'd installed months earlier when I was trying to figure out why Emma seemed so distant. Originally meant to catch her planning surprise parties, now it was recording the destruction of my family in real time. I want to see Lily, Emma said. Why? Kid's better off where she is. Less drama. She's my daughter. She's a complication. Just like that husband of yours was a complication until you handled it. There was a long pause before Emma spoke again. What do you mean, handled it? Come on, babe. You think this is my first rodeo? Military wives are easy targets. Lonely, desperate, looking for excitement. You get them hooked, isolate them from their support systems, and pretty soon they're doing whatever you need them to do. My hands tightened on the headphones. I'm not desperate. Derek laughed. It was the sound a snake might make if snakes could express amusement. You locked your own kid in a car trunk so we could have sex. If that's not desperate, I don't know what is. I wasn't thinking clearly. No, you were thinking exactly right. You were prioritizing what matters. Us. This relationship. Not some crying brat who's going to grow up and hate you anyway. Emma was quiet for so long I thought she'd left the room. I want to call Jake. Tell him I'm sorry. Work something out. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. You're not calling your husband. You're not apologizing. You're not working anything out. You made your choice when you chose me over them. I didn't choose you over my daughter. Didn't you? Because last I checked, she's not here and I am. Another long silence. Then Emma, her voice smaller now. What if I want to change my mind? Too late for that, sweetheart. You burned that bridge when you nearly killed your kid. You think any judge is going to give you custody after what you did? You think your soldier boy husband is going to take you back? Through my scope, I could see Derek moving closer to Emma in the kitchen. You need me now? I'm the only one who understands you. The only one who accepts what you really are. And what am I? A woman who puts herself first. Finally, it's actually refreshing. That night, Emma tried to leave. I watched through night vision as she packed a small bag and headed for her car. Derek caught her in the driveway, and what happened next made me reach for my gear. He didn't hit her. He was smarter than that. Instead, he took her car keys and her phone. Where you gonna go, Em? Back to your sister who thinks you're a monster? Back to your husband, who's probably already filed for divorce? Back to a daughter who's going to grow up knowing mommy tried to kill her? Emma broke down, crying right there in the driveway. Derek put his arm around her shoulders in what would look like comfort to anyone watching. But I could see the grip, the way he was controlling her movement back toward the house. It's okay, babe. This is where you belong now, with someone who loves you exactly as you are. As they walked back inside, I made a decision that would have gotten me court-martialed in the army, but felt perfectly justified as a father. The surveillance phase was over. Emma didn't emerge from the house for 3 days. From my position, I could see her moving around inside like a ghost. Derek had her phone, her keys, and apparently her will to fight. He left twice each day, once in the morning for what looked like a gym run, once in the evening for beer and takeout. Each time, he made sure to lock Emma inside. She wasn't a girlfriend anymore. She was a prisoner. On the third night, everything changed. Derek came home drunk and angry. I could hear him before he even got out of his car, talking loud on his phone about some deal that had gone bad. When he slammed through my front door, Emma was waiting in the living room. I need to call Lily, just to hear her voice. We've been over this. She's probably scared. She doesn't understand where Mommy went. Through my audio feed, I heard Derek's footsteps stop. You want to know what your precious daughter understands? She understands that Mommy locked her in a trunk and left her to die. That's what she understands. Don't what? Tell the truth? Face reality? Your kid hates you, Emma. And she should. The sound of Emma crying came through my headphones, but there was something different about it now. Not the broken sobs of guilt I'd been hearing for days. This was anger. I made a mistake. One horrible mistake. But I love my daughter. Love. Derek laughed. You nearly killed her for an afternoon screw. That's not love, sweetheart. That's selfishness. Stop. That's why this works between us. We're both selfish. We both take what we want when we want it. The difference is, I'm honest about it. I want to see Lily. And I want $1 million. We don't always get what we want. The next sound I heard made my blood freeze. It was Lily's voice, but distorted, coming from Derek's phone. Mama? Mama, where are you? He was playing a recording of my daughter asking for her mother. You son of a bitch, Emma whispered. Relax. I recorded it yesterday when I drove by your sister's place. Cute kid. Shame she's stuck with such a screwed up family. You went near Lily? Just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. She was playing in the backyard. Real trusting, your sister-in-law. Didn't even notice me watching from the street. I was already moving, grabbing my gear, when Emma's voice came through the speakers again. But this time, she wasn't crying. You stay away from my daughter. Or what? You'll lock me in a trunk. That's when I heard the crash. Through my scope, I saw Emma throw Derek's beer bottle against the wall. He spun around, and for the first time since I'd been watching, he looked genuinely surprised. There she is, he said slowly. There's the real Emma. The one who puts herself first no matter who gets hurt. I'm nothing like you. Sure you are. You just feel guilty about it, which makes you weak. Emma picked up another bottle, and Derek's whole demeanor shifted. The fake charm disappeared, replaced by something cold and predatory. Put it down, Em. Give me my keys. Put the bottle down. Give me my keys, and let me see my daughter. Derek started moving toward her, and I could see in his body language exactly what was about to happen. I'd seen it in the police reports from Arizona and Colorado. This was how it always ended with Derek Martinez. With violence. You're not going anywhere, he said quietly. And you're not seeing that brat again. You belong to me now. Emma threw the second bottle, but Derek was already moving. He caught her wrist and twisted until she cried out and dropped to her knees. Here's what's going to happen, he said, his voice perfectly calm. You're going to stop asking about the kid. You're going to stop asking for your keys. And you're going to remember that I'm the only person left in this world who gives a damn about you. Let go of me. Derek twisted harder. Say you understand. You're hurting me. Say it. Through my scope, I could see Emma's face contorted in pain. But I could also see something else. The exact moment she realized what Derek really was, and what he was capable of doing to her daughter if he ever got the chance. I understand, she whispered. Derek released her wrist and headed toward the kitchen. Good. Now make me something to eat. All this drama made me hungry. Emma sat on my living room floor, holding her injured wrist, and I saw her look directly at the window where I'd hidden one of my cameras months ago. She couldn't see me, but somehow she knew I was out there. And for the first time in days, she wasn't crying. She was planning. At 2:17 a.m., Derek made his fatal mistake. He fell asleep. I'd been watching for 72 hours straight, surviving on military MREs and pure adrenaline, waiting for the perfect window. Derek always stayed up late, always kept one ear open, always positioned himself between Emma and any possible escape route. But tonight, 3 beers and whatever pills he'd been popping finally caught up with him. Through my night vision scope, I watched Emma ease off the couch where Derek had made her sleep beside him. She moved like a woman who'd learned the hard way how to avoid waking a dangerous man. She made it to the kitchen before he stirred. "Where you going?" His voice was thick with sleep and chemicals. "Bathroom," Emma whispered. "Leave the door open." Even unconscious, he was still controlling her. I waited until Derek's breathing returned to the heavy rhythm of deep sleep. Then I moved. 8 years of Delta Force training had taught me that the most dangerous moment in any operation is the transition from observation to action. One wrong step, one creaking floorboard, one shadow in the wrong place, and everything goes sideways. But this wasn't Afghanistan. This was my house. I knew every loose board, every squeaky hinge, every blind spot. I entered through the basement door I'd left unlocked 6 months ago when I installed my surveillance equipment. The same equipment that was now going to save my family. Emma was in the kitchen, standing at the sink, when I materialized behind her like a ghost. She turned around and nearly screamed before recognizing my face in the darkness. I put one finger to my lips and pointed toward the living room where Derek was snoring. Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. I pulled out my phone and typed, "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, then held up her wrist. Even in the dim light, I could see the bruising. I typed again, "Do you want out?" Emma looked toward the living room, then back at me. The woman who'd betrayed me, who'd endangered our daughter, who'd brought a predator into our home, nodded like her life depended on it. Because it probably did. I handed her a small piece of paper with an address written on it. Rachel's house. Then I held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes. That's how long she had to disappear before I dealt with Derek. Emma grabbed my arm and whispered so quietly I almost missed it. "He knows where Lily is. He drove by Rachel's. He has pictures." My blood turned to ice water. I pulled out my phone and showed Emma a text I'd already typed. "Call 911 from neighbor's house. Tell them armed intruder, domestic violence, send backup." She read it and nodded. Then I handed her my truck keys and pointed toward the back door. Emma hesitated for just a second, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Gratitude? Regret? Fear for what was about to happen to the man who'd held her prisoner? I didn't care which one it was. She slipped out the back door like smoke, and I turned my attention to Derek. He was sprawled on my couch in my living room, wearing my dead father's favorite shirt that Emma must have given him. The disrespect of that detail hit me almost as hard as everything else he'd done. I could have killed him right there. Would have been easy. Would have been justified. But Lily didn't need a father in prison. She needed a father who was smart enough to let the system handle garbage like Derek Martinez. Instead, I zip-tied his hands and feet while he slept. Military-grade restraints that would hold a man twice his size. Derek woke up when I was finishing the last knot. "What the hell, shill?" I placed one finger against my lips, the same gesture I'd used with Emma. "You're going to want to stay very quiet for the next few minutes." Derek's eyes adjusted to the darkness, and I watched his face change as he realized who was sitting in front of him. "You're supposed to be in San Antonio. I'm supposed to be a lot of things. Happily married. Trusting. Naive about the kind of men my wife brings around my daughter." I leaned forward so he could see my face clearly. "Turns out I'm not very good at being what I'm supposed to be. Look, man, this is all a misunderstanding, is it? Because I have audio recordings of you threatening my wife, video footage of you holding her against her will, and a very interesting file on your activities in Arizona, Colorado, and Texas." Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. "The police will be here in about 3 minutes. You're going to tell them you broke into my house while I was out of town. You're going to confess to unlawful imprisonment and domestic assault. And you're never going to contact my family again. And if I don't," I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile, "then you'll discover why they don't teach Delta Force soldiers to fight fair." The police arrived exactly 4 minutes later, Sirens wailing through the quiet neighborhood, like banshees announcing the end of something that should have ended long ago. Derek tried to spin a story about being invited over, about Emma asking him to stay, about me being the jealous ex-husband who'd set him up. But it's hard to sell that narrative when you're zip-tied on someone else's couch, and the homeowner has enough evidence to prosecute a federal case. Detective Sarah Chun had seen this kind of thing before. Military wife, deployed husband, predator moving in for the kill. She didn't even blink when I handed her a USB drive containing 72 hours of surveillance footage and audio recordings. Mr. Morrison, I have to ask, how long have you been monitoring your own house? Long enough to document a pattern of domestic violence and unlawful imprisonment. She looked at Derek, then back at me. And you waited 3 days to intervene because I needed enough evidence to ensure he never gets the chance to hurt another family. While Chun processed Derek, another officer took Emma's statement. She sat in the back of an ambulance, a paramedic examining her wrist, and told the truth for the first time in months. Everything. The affair, the trunk, Derek's escalating control and violence, his threats against Lily. Mrs. Morrison, the officer said gently, do you understand that locking your daughter in a car trunk, even briefly, constitutes child endangerment? Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know what I did was horrible. I wasn't thinking clearly. That's when Derek, being loaded into a patrol car, decided to make one last play. Tell them about the insurance policy, he shouted across the yard. Tell them how you were going to fake the kid's death and collect the money. Every head turned. Emma went white as paper. Detective Chun walked over to where Emma sat. Ma'am, is there something else you need to tell us? No, I would never. I didn't even know Derek was thinking about. Emma looked at me with panic in her eyes. Jake, I swear on Lily's life, I never agreed to anything like that. And here's the thing, I believed her. Not because I trusted Emma anymore, but because I'd been listening to her conversations with Derek for days. She was guilty of adultery and child endangerment, but she wasn't a murderer. Derek was just trying to drag her down with him. Detective, I said, I have every conversation they've had recorded. At no point does my wife agree to any scheme involving insurance money or harming our daughter. She nodded. We'll need those recordings as evidence. Already copied and ready for the DA's office. Derek's face twisted with rage as he realized his final gambit had failed. You think you're so smart, soldier boy? This isn't over. When I get out, you won't. I walked over to the patrol car where he sat cuffed. See, while you were playing house with my wife, I was building a case that spans 4 states and involves 3 other families you've destroyed. The FBI is very interested in your travel patterns. Derek's expression shifted from rage to fear. That's right. Christina Valdez in Arizona? She's ready to testify now that she knows she's not alone. Jennifer Walsh in Colorado? Same story. And Ashley Morrison's family in Texas? They've been waiting 3 years for someone to connect the dots. Detective Chin looked up from her notes. Mr. Morrison, are you saying this is part of a larger pattern? I'm saying Derek Martinez is a serial predator who targets military families. And now you have enough evidence to make sure he never hurts another child. As they drove Derek away, he was screaming something about lawyers and false charges. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was watching Emma, who sat in that ambulance looking like she'd aged 10 years in 10 days. Jake, she said when the crowd of police cars finally dispersed. Thank you for saving me, for not letting him. I didn't do it for you. The words came out harder than I'd intended, but they were true. I know. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. I know you hate me now. I don't hate you, Emma. Hate requires caring, and I'm not sure I have any left. She flinched like I'd slapped her. What happens now? I looked at my house, our house, with its broken windows and police tape and the lingering smell of a life that had imploded in spectacular fashion. Now you pack whatever you need and find somewhere else to stay. I've got a daughter to think about. Jake, please, can we just talk about? No. I turned to face her fully. There's nothing left to talk about. You made your choices. Derek made his. Now I'm making mine. Emma stood up slowly. The paramedic finished with her wrist. Will I ever see Lily again? That was the question I'd been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. That depends on you. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Emma in a sterile conference room at Miller & Associates Family Law. The same office where we'd signed our marriage certificate 5 years ago was now hosting the negotiation of its destruction. Emma looked different. Thinner, quieter, like someone had turned down her volume permanently. She wore no makeup, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she kept her hands folded in her lap to hide the fading bruises on her wrist. My lawyer, Tom Miller, laid out the papers like he was dealing cards in a high-stakes poker game. Full custody to Mr. Morrison, he began. Mrs. Morrison gets supervised visitation every other Saturday for 2 hours, contingent on completion of court-mandated counseling and parenting classes. Emma's lawyer, a young woman who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, cleared her throat. My client would like to request overnight visits after 6 months of successful supervised. No, I didn't let her finish. Not until I'm convinced Lily is safe. Emma finally spoke. Jake, I would never hurt her again. You have to know that. What I know is that you put our daughter in a car trunk for sex with a stranger. What I know is that your judgment when it comes to men who might harm Lily is questionable at best. Derek fooled me. He seemed like exactly what he was if you'd bothered to look. But you didn't want to look, did you, Emma? You wanted to feel desired and excited and young again, and you didn't care what that cost our family. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't argue. How could she? Tom continued reading. Division of assets is straightforward. Mr. Morrison keeps the house, his business, and his retirement accounts. Mrs. Morrison keeps her car and personal belongings. What about alimony? Emma's lawyer asked. I leaned forward. Here's what I'm offering instead of alimony. I'll pay for your therapy, your parenting classes, and whatever job training you need to support yourself. But I'm not paying you to maintain the lifestyle you had while you were trying to destroy our family. Emma nodded. That's fair. There's one more thing. I pulled out a document I prepared separately. This is a behavior contract. If you want any chance of rebuilding a relationship with Lily, you'll sign it. Emma's lawyer reached for the paper, but Emma stopped her. What does it say? No dating for 1 year. No bringing men around Lily for 2 years without my approval and a background check. Mandatory drug and alcohol testing for 6 months. Weekly therapy sessions for a minimum of 1 year. And if you ever put our daughter in danger again, you forfeit all parental rights permanently. The room went silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of traffic outside. You're treating me like a criminal, Emma said quietly. You are a criminal. Child endangerment is a felony in Texas. The only reason you're not in jail is because I convinced the DA that Lily needs at least one parent who's not behind bars. Emma's lawyer whispered something in her ear, but Emma shook her head. I'll sign it. Emma, you should really consider, I'll sign it. Emma's voice was stronger now. All of it. Whatever it takes to see my daughter again. She signed every page without reading them, her hand shaking slightly as she wrote her name. There's something else, I said after the lawyers had witnessed and notarized everything. I'm selling the house. Emma looked up sharply. Why? Because I can't live in the place where my wife betrayed me and nearly killed my daughter. Because Lily asks why mommy isn't there every time we walk through the front door. Because that house isn't a home anymore. It's a crime scene. Where will you go? Rachel found me a place across town. 3 bedrooms, big backyard, good school district. Lily will have her own room and space to heal from what you put her through. Emma's composure finally cracked. I'm going to lose everything, aren't I? My husband, my daughter, my home, everything. I studied her face, looking for manipulation or self-pity, but all I saw was genuine grief. You lost those things the moment you chose Derek over your family. I'm just making it official. But as we gathered our papers and prepared to leave, I found myself adding something I hadn't planned to say. Emma. She looked up hopefully. This doesn't have to be permanent. The contract, the limited visitation, it's not a punishment. It's a chance. Maybe the only chance you'll get to prove you can be the mother Lily deserves. Do you think? Do you think she'll ever forgive me? I thought about Lily asking for Mama every night, about the way she still flinched when car doors slammed, about the nightmares that woke her up crying for her mother. I don't know, but if you want to find out, you'll need to become someone worth forgiving. Emma nodded and walked out of that conference room carrying nothing but her purse and the weight of every choice she'd made. And for the first time since I'd found Lily in that trunk, I felt something other than anger. I felt hope. 6 months later, I watched through the playground fence as Emma pushed Lily on a swing set for the first time since the trunk incident. "Higher, Mama. Higher." Emma smiled. A real smile, not the desperate, guilty expression she'd worn during those first supervised visits when Lily barely acknowledged her presence. The court-appointed supervisor, Mrs. Rodriguez, sat on a nearby bench reading a magazine, but keeping one eye on them. These Saturday visits had become routine now, 2 hours every week where Emma got to remember what it felt like to be a mother instead of a cautionary tale. "She's doing better," Rachel said, joining me at the fence. I nodded. Emma was different. The therapy had helped, but more than that, she'd finally stopped making excuses for what she'd done. The first time she'd visited Lily after signing the contract, she'd knelt down to our daughter's eye level and said something I'll never forget. "Mama made a very bad choice that hurt you. I'm sorry, baby girl. I'm working very hard to make sure I never make bad choices like that again." 3-year-olds don't understand adultery or betrayal, but they understand when someone is trying to make things right. "How's the new house?" Rachel asked. "Lily loves it. She's got friends on the street, and Mrs. Chin next door makes cookies every Tuesday." I paused, watching Emma catch Lily at the bottom of the slide. "It feels like home. And you? How are you doing?" That was the harder question. For months after Derek's arrest, I'd thrown myself into work and taking care of Lily. 18-hour days building custom cabinets and learning to braid hair. Teaching myself to make pancakes shaped like butterflies and reading the same bedtime story 17 times in a row. I'd been surviving, not healing. "I'm getting there." "Jake." Rachel's voice had that careful tone she used when she was about to say something I might not want to hear. "You know it's okay to forgive her, right? Not for Emma's sake, but for yours." I watched Emma help Lily navigate the monkey bars, patient and encouraging in a way she'd never been before the whole world fell apart. "I'm not ready for that yet." I didn't say you had to be ready. I just said it was okay when you are. The supervised visits had been going so well that Emma's lawyer had filed a motion for unsupervised time. For hours instead of 2. No chaperone. Just a mother trying to rebuild trust with her daughter. I'd been fighting it for weeks, but watching them together now, seeing how Lily's nightmares had decreased and her smile had returned, I was starting to think maybe it was time. "Daddy." Lily came running across the playground with Emma following behind, both of them laughing about something. "What's so funny, Bug? Mama doesn't know how to go down the twisty slide." Emma shrugged, looking almost like the woman I'd married. "Apparently, I'm too scared." "Lily thinks that's hilarious." "You should try it," Lily announced with the absolute certainty that only 3-year-olds possess. "It's not scary if you're brave." Emma looked at me, and I saw something pass across her face. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. "You're right, baby. Sometimes you have to be brave, even when you're scared." Mrs. Rodriguez approached us, checking her watch. "Time's up for today." I expected the usual tears and protests from Lily, but instead she hugged Emma goodbye and said, "See you next Saturday, Mama." As Emma walked to her car, she stopped and turned back. "Jake, thank you for giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet. Prove you deserve it." She nodded and drove away in her little Honda, the same car where I'd found Lily 6 months ago, but somehow it looked different now. Less like a weapon, more like just a car. That night, after Lily was asleep, I called Emma. "Hello. It's Jake. I've been thinking about the motion for unsupervised visits." A long pause. "And For hours. Every other Saturday. But there are conditions. Whatever you need. First sign of you reverting to old patterns. First hint that you're putting Lily at risk again, and it goes back to supervised visits permanently. I understand. And Emma, if you ever bring another Derek into her life, if you ever choose a man over our daughter's safety again, I will make sure you never see her again. Are we clear? Crystal clear. After I hung up, I sat on my new porch looking at the stars and thinking about healing. About the difference between forgiveness and trust. About the fact that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is give someone a second chance, even when they've proven they don't deserve it. Not because they've earned it, but because your daughter needs her mother. Even if that mother has to learn how to be brave enough to deserve the title. 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of our new home, watching Emma help Lily decorate cupcakes for her 4th birthday party. Flour in their hair, frosting on their faces, both of them laughing like the world had never been broken. Daddy, look. Mama made a butterfly. Emma held up her cupcake creation, lopsided and imperfect, but made with the kind of attention and love she'd forgotten how to give before everything fell apart. That's beautiful, Bug. The unsupervised visits had evolved into something I'd never expected. Emma had moved into a small apartment 10 minutes away, close enough to be part of Lily's daily life, but separate enough that we could both heal without stepping on each other's wounds. She'd kept every promise in that contract. Therapy twice a week. No dating. No men around Lily. Drug tests that came back clean every single time. Parenting classes where she learned to put our daughter's needs before her own desires. But more than that, she'd learned to forgive herself. And that made all the difference. Jake, Emma said quietly while Lily ran to wash her hands. Can we talk for a minute? We stepped onto the back porch where Lily couldn't hear us. I got an offer, Emma said. A good job. Marketing coordinator at a nonprofit that helps military families. It's in Denver. My stomach dropped. Denver's 800 miles away. I know. That's why I'm not taking it. I stared at her. What? A year ago, I would have taken that job without thinking twice. New city, fresh start. Escape from all the judgment and whispers. Emma looked through the window at Lily, who was now arranging sprinkles with the intense concentration of a master architect. But that little girl in there has already lost enough. She doesn't need to lose her mama again, because I'm too proud to stay and do the hard work. Emma, I'm not asking you to take me back. I know that ship has sailed, and honestly, I'm not sure I deserve that kind of second chance anyway. She took a deep breath. But I am asking you to let me stay. Let me be the mother Lily needs. Let me prove that some people really can change. Before I could answer, a car pulled into the driveway. My new girlfriend, Sarah, arriving for Lily's party with balloons and a gift bag that probably cost more than it should have. Sarah was everything Emma wasn't: stable, honest, patient with a traumatized little girl who sometimes woke up crying for her mama. She was a kindergarten teacher who understood that healing takes time and that love isn't always enough if trust has been shattered. Emma watched Sarah get out of her car, and I braced myself for jealousy or resentment. Instead, Emma smiled. She's good for you. And more importantly, she's good for Lily. You're okay with this? Jake, I forfeited the right to be jealous when I chose another man over my family. Sarah makes you happy, and she treats our daughter like she matters. That's all I can ask for. Sarah joined us on the porch, giving Emma a polite nod and me a kiss on the cheek that felt like coming home. How are the cupcakes coming? Sarah asked. See for yourself, Emma said, opening the door so Sarah could see Lily's masterpiece. As the three of us stood there, the woman who'd betrayed me, the woman who was healing me, and the father trying to figure out how to make it all work, I realized something profound. This was what forgiveness actually looked like. Not pretending the past didn't happen, but refusing to let it poison the future. The party was everything a 4-year-old's birthday should be. Friends from preschool, too much cake, presents that would be forgotten by next week. But what Lily would remember was that both her parents were there, that they were kind to each other, and that she was surrounded by people who loved her enough to do the hard work of healing. As guests started leaving, Derek's name came up for the first time in months. Emma's friend mentioned seeing news coverage of his trial. 15 years, the friend said, for everything he did across all those states. Emma went quiet, and I saw her hands shake slightly. He can't hurt anyone else now, I said gently. Emma nodded. Good. Those other families, they deserve justice. Later that evening, after Sarah had gone home and Lily was asleep, Emma and I cleaned up the birthday debris together. Jake, she said as we folded chairs and threw away paper plates. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me completely? I thought about everything we'd been through. The trunk, Derek, the divorce papers, the slow, painful work of rebuilding trust. I think I already have, I said, surprising myself with the truth of it. Emma stopped folding chairs. Really, forgiveness isn't about what you deserve, Emma. It's about what I need to do to move forward. And I can't move forward carrying that anger around like a weapon. She wiped tears from her eyes. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just keep being the mother Lily deserves. Keep choosing her over everything else. Keep proving that people can change. As Emma gathered her purse to leave, she turned back one more time. For what it's worth, Jake, you're a better man than I ever gave you credit for. Sarah's lucky to have you. We're all lucky, Emma. We survived something that destroys most families, and somehow we came out better on the other side. After she left, I sat in Lily's room watching her sleep, thinking about the lessons this whole nightmare had taught me. Sometimes the people we love most will hurt us in ways we never imagined possible. Sometimes trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired. But sometimes, if everyone involved is willing to do the hard work, to choose healing over pride, to put children's needs over adult desires, sometimes broken families can become something new. Not what they were before, but what they need to be now. And sometimes that's enough. The deepest truth I've learned is this: real strength isn't about revenge or punishment. Real strength is about protecting what matters most, even when the people who should help you protect it have failed you. Real strength is teaching your children that love means choosing them every single day over everything else that might seem more exciting or easier or new. To everyone watching this story unfold, I have one question that I hope stays with you long after you close this video. When the people you trust most let you down, when your world falls apart, when everything you believed about your family turns out to be a lie, who will you choose to become? The victim of their choices or the author of your own healing? Let us know in the comments where you're watching from around the world. Your support means everything to our community.